Broadcasting live from the Wellness Wonderland, you're listening to the Wellness Wonderland Radio. I'm Katie, and each week I chat with the most inspirational people on the planet on how to stay inspired in all areas of life. As you listen, feel free to tweet at me at Katie Dalebout or use the hashtag Wellness Wonderland. I'd love to hear your aha moments. So grab your headphones and listen on the go, or cuddle up with a notebook as we dive in deep with authentic conversations right here in Wonderland. Hi everybody, it's me. Real quick before we get into today's amazing episode with Jenny Sansouci, who I know you're going to have a healthy crush on by the end of this episode, I just want to read this week's review of the week. So if you are loving the show, it would be amazing if you could head on over to iTunes and leave a review. Let me know your feedback, give me a 5-star rating perhaps, and I would love to hear from you. They mean a ton to me, they get more people to the show, and I read every single one of them. So today's review of the week, this one comes from Bragan, and I love all of your support, Bragan. You are a rock star. So she writes, Katie the Great, the Wellness Wonderland is my favorite podcast, no doubt about it. Katie, your voice is so chill, but with an upbeat vibe to it. Thank you, Bragan. I learn new stuff each podcast, and I smile and laugh out loud, shed a tear here and there, and I love the peeps you interview and the fact that I can listen in and be surrounded by their knowledge and love for what they do. Katie girl, I gotta tell you how much you've impacted my life. I think about you every day and smile so big. If you are new to Katie's stuff, then you will love her. So just keep spreading the wealth that she and all of these wonderful people are willing to give us. Thank you so much for leaving that review. It is the most loving thing I've ever read in my life and makes me smile so big. So I am so glad you love the show. I'm so glad that you're all here listening, and I hope you have a lot of fun over the next couple minutes while you listen to this amazing episode with Jenny. So here is this week's episode of the Wellness Wonderland Radio. Welcome back to the Wellness Wonderland Radio, everybody. I am psyched for today's episode because Jenny Sansouci, who basically is just awesome, is here in Wonderland. And I swear, every post she writes, from her Instagram to her blog, they just go right in. She speaks right to my soul. I love her voice. She's the publisher of HealthyCrush.com, a wildly successful blog that is actually one of the blogs that inspired me to start Wonderland back in the day. So she's also a health coach with Dr. Frank Glittman and a graduate of the Institute for Integrative Nutrition with a certificate in food therapy from the Natural Gourmet Institute. She sends out a rad weekly email called Healthy Highs, providing the most life-enhancing, vibe-raising resources she can find. And my favorite part of Jenny Sansouci is following her adventures in high vibe land on her Instagram. She uses Instagram as a mini blog chronicling her life and seeking out healthy highs throughout her day. Her unique, authentic, and just oh-so-real voice shines through every post and Instagram and tweet she writes. And yeah, I really love your work, Jenny, and you've greatly impacted me personally from your advice you share on your blog, everything from grounded breakup advice to decluttering to breakfast advice to recipes. She's got a little bit of it all over on Healthy Crush. So obviously she lives in her own wellness wonderland. So thank you for stopping by mine today, Jenny.
Oh my God, that was the best intro I've ever received. I think we can just end there. And I'm super impressed that you could pronounce my last name right.
Yeah, I think I've heard it a couple times.
That's great. Nobody can do that. So
really,
nice work.
I'm glad I did that. All right. So let's jump right in here. So let's zoom the lens back, and I would love to get kind of a bird's eye view of your story and kind of how you use your personality trait to really being obsessed with things and getting high on the good stuff to show up for your purpose in your life and start your blog and your business.
All right. So I guess where things started for me with my blog was about, I guess about 7 years ago. I had moved to New York and I was just like a crazy party girl. I was just, partying out every night. I've always had a super addictive personality, so it's like go hard or go home with anything I do. So I was always the girl that was, out at the bars till sunrise and just like partying hard and, convincing everybody else to party, and just it was super nuts. And so, I was deep into the party scene, drugs, alcohol, like just eating poorly, always kind of managing my energy with like tons of caffeine and like just, it was kind of just absurd. So at one point, it got to the point where it was just like taking over my whole life. And my friend, this guy that my boss at the time, actually, he was friends with Gabby Bernstein, which I know you know, and he wanted me to meet her, and he just thought my partying was out of control, and he said, you really should meet my friend Gabby. She used to party too, and now she just helps people and meditates. And I was like, oh, I'm fine. Like, I don't need to meet your friend who, I just kept brushing it off. And then one day I just agreed to meet her because it got to the point where I just needed help, and I realized it. So I met Gabby that night, and she became my mentor, and I totally cleaned up my act. And she was like, why don't you just try to, not drink for like a week and call me every day and don't do any drugs, just for a week. And so I started doing that, and I started calling her every day, and we were hanging out, and she was just kind of mentoring me on this whole new life that was available that I didn't know about. Like, I just thought that, being a party girl was like the way, and it was kind of my identity at that point. So the more I, hung out with Gabby and learned from her, the more I realized there were other things where I could direct my energy. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. And from that, I got a job at a big health website. It's called Everyday Health. And I learned all these things about how, a blog or how a website can be a business. And I learned, all the ins and outs of how to make money online. And while I was there, I just started my own blog, and it's gone through lots of different changes throughout the years, and I've had a lot of different iterations of it, but I was able to kind of channel all that energy that I had into something better, and I got super into health and super into, nutrition and self-help and personal development, and I just went all in with that. So I just kind of transferred all of that addictive energy that I was using for partying and put it into something that was actually helping my life and helping people around me. And I'm still like that. I'm still very much like an addict in so many ways, but I try to channel it into ways that are more sustainable. That's kind amazing. Of the nutshell.
I love that story. I think it's super cool. So on this, since it's been about 7 years, you said, and you spoke a little bit about your relationship with Gabby, who, as you know, is a huge guru of mine, and talk about her like every day here in Wonderland. So I would love to know, after you're in the last 7 years and how you've kind of evolved as a person, maybe one of the greatest lessons that you've learned from your relationship with Gabby, or a favorite maybe.
I think if there's like one really important thing that I've learned from Gabby, is just that I don't have to figure it all out myself. One of the first things that I learned, I guess, from her is just to ask for help when I need it, whether it's like spiritual help or help from other people, or whatever kind of help like you can ask for. I used to have this mentality that I had to kind of power through and figure out everything by myself, and I was the one that was gonna have control over every outcome, and there was a lot of like manipulation and trying so hard to make things how I wanted them to be. But once you can learn to just release that and believe that everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen, and believing in guidance, whether it's like God or the universe or spirit guides or whatever, something bigger than you, that was really, really astonishing to me. I remember being like, oh, how freeing does that feel to know that you don't have to always figure it out, that you can kind of like take a deep breath, relax, and just feel your way through things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So going off that then, what are some of the ways that you remember if you ever forget? Like, I know sometimes, I know that and have learned that so much from Gabby, but sometimes in the moment I just forget. What are some of your ways to remind yourself or to tune back in?
Well, I think I always keep, a handful of books near my little meditation spot. I have this little meditation spot in my bedroom, and I have a few books that I'll just kind of open and read a little bit of if I get into that place where I'm like freaking out. Gabby's books are definitely at the top of my pile.
Me too.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's not right away. Like sometimes I'll forget and I'll, be having a freak out, but exercise really helps me. So like taking a long walk and listening to music is probably my biggest thing that I do if I'm in that like freak out mode. So no matter what I'm doing, and like thankfully I've created a lifestyle for myself that if I do need to go take a walk for an hour, I can just do it anytime. And I'll listen to music that kind of raises my vibe, like puts me in a better place. And I think that usually if we're in like panic mode, what we really need to do is just like get into a better feeling state no matter what. It's not like we have to just figure out the problem. It's just getting into that, like, I guess, higher vibrational state so we can see things more clearly.
Yes, and I know you really promote this, and I do too, and Gabby as well, but having a go-to playlist, a positive perception playlist, is super essential and super cool. And I follow you on Spotify, and you've got a bunch of great ones, so we'll post that in the show notes for sure.
Cool. Yeah, music is everything. It's like I noticed that with music I can put myself in different moods almost like clockwork. It's very weird. Like I'll listen to my hip hop playlist if I really want to amp myself up and feel like badass for the day, or if I'm feeling like really contemplative or really want to go into that more emotional state. I have a certain playlist for it, and it's like you can just turn on different emotions by the music that you listen to. And I think it's really powerful. So
yeah, and I think I want to go a little bit deeper into that, because this is actually something that, this is funny, but I actually learned it from you through a Gabby lecture. So I call them like the vintage Gabby lectures, right? Like her old ones that I listened to and like that I got into that are on iTunes, and she was saying, a really important step, especially in this world of spirituality and self-development, is that you can't just like band-aid fix things with an affirmation. You can't just like throw an affirmation over a feeling. Like you have to feel it to move through it, to release it, to change it and shift it. And that was a huge shift for me right there. And for me, music is the only way. I'm sure there's other ways, but for me, the only way to like go there and feel it. And journaling helps me a lot with this too, but listening to, when you're sad, like allowing yourself to like be sad and feel that first before trying to move on is so crucial. And I think music can really, really help with that. So
yeah, I totally agree. And what I've learned is there's like what music can really help with in that scenario is sometimes when we have a really strong emotion or feeling, we feel like we have to do something about it right away. Like we have to call that person right away when we're in the midst of the emotion, or we have to
email
go make the change that we feel like we need to make immediately. But sometimes it can be really helpful to just kind of feel through it a little bit. And that's where I always will kind of ask for guidance in that way and be like, okay, I'm feeling this. I'm gonna, feel through it for a little while. And what do I really need to do? Like, does this thing really need to be said to this person right now? Does it really need to be said in the exact way that I think? Or can I just kind of like chill with myself and see what comes out of it when I'm not like in such a heightened emotional state?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's like not our nature to do that.
Yeah.
So,
most people are very reactive, and all of us are, and we'll something will happen, and it's like we have to take action. the other thing that I have learned just over the past couple of months is that there's a difference between, and I think this is really important, but there's a difference between feeling through the emotions and, you know, using music to help you feel through that versus like wallowing in it for too long. And I've definitely gone through phases where I can, you know, be just in this emotional state and letting it like run my whole day, and I think that that's counterproductive to what we're trying to do. So I think it's important to know when to kind of like pull yourself out of it too, if that makes sense.
Yes, I'm really, really glad you brought that up, because I wouldn't want people to, you know, kind of spin that into the other direction.
Right.
And I think, you know, I've heard this from you or from Gabby, or I don't even know, but I think they say, you know, it's 90 seconds to feel a feeling and then you can move through it. And
yeah,
I always think of that as like 90 seconds is like about a song. I guess it's kind of a short song, but like, you know, listen to one song and just feel it all, and then on the next song, like release it and just be with yourself, and then like really, like I can just visualize it being gone, and that really helps me. I think.
Yeah, totally. And to catch yourself when you're letting it, when it's not actually helping you, like when it's taking away from your other things that you want to be doing. You know, I think it's important to feel our feelings, but yeah, like not to indulge in it to the point where you're like, it becomes a problem.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think music, you know, can just be something that can make you just feel really good. Like to me, and I don't know about you, Jenny, like I've never really said this out loud or like talked to anybody about this, but like having a soundtrack to my life and to my day like helps me get out of myself and like look at myself as an observer kind of, and really like gets me back into the present moment. And it can even help with like getting me out of bed, like knowing I'm going to be able to like put on a really groovy song, and just, you know, so there's other ways to kind of use music. And for me, the best meditations that I have are just a freaking walk, you know, just like putting on a walk with a playlist, and that can kind of be a time to tune in with myself, or even a podcast, or just listening to something inspirational and focusing on that. You know, so often we're multitasking, I think can be super powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can change the way you see the world. You know, if I walk out my door and I put on my hip hop playlist, like I'm like ready to jam, you know?
Yeah.
But if I put on some like sad music and sit on the subway and like look at everyone, it just seems like you can see the world very differently depending on what music. Yeah, it's a very important part of my life for sure.
Yeah. So good. So one of your most famous and helpful blog posts, honestly, to me was well, actually, there's been a lot that have been famous and helpful to me, but you write very authentically on everything from breakups to your breakfast routine, and you're super genuine and real, and you're living your purpose in a really authentic way. And, you know, when I asked you what your biggest lesson from Gabby was, if someone asked me that question, mine would be just to be real and just to be authentic, because that's all the world wants from you, you know, as she says. So I think it takes a lot of bravery to share in the way that you do. And for instance, in those posts that I mentioned, and, you know, just being courageous and courageous enough to be your authentic self. So how do you handle sharing in such a authentic way in your platforms and stepping out of your comfort zone? Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, one of the things that I feel, you know, before I write one of those posts that I feel like I'm kind of exposing something, I feel like it's not even me that writes it. I know that sounds super trippy, but I feel like I'm getting a download. Like I feel like things are coming to me and I have no choice, and they start to write themselves in my head, and whatever I'm going through, I get there's this moment where I'm like, oh, the reason you're going through this is because you have to share it. You have to. And it's like, I almost feel like it's selfish if I don't, you know, because I'm like having these realizations and having these experiences, and I'm like, this needs to be, you know, portrayed. And so it could help other people. And the breakup blog that I wrote is actually one of the most, you know, I don't want to say popular because it's like, what's popular about a breakup, but it's the one of the, you know, highly trafficked blogs on my site, because people are searching for that when they're in pain. You know, the people that come across that blog are literally days out of a breakup and feeling like their heart is like falling out of their body, and finding something like that when you're going through that. I know that for me, whenever I'm having a hard time, I'll Google things, you know, how to get through a breakup or whatever, and look for tips. And people have, you know, you have to be able to share that stuff authentically. So I picture those people, you know, the people that are going through the same thing as I'm going through, and I'm like, they need to have resources, you know. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I started a blog, is because I would read blogs so much, and every time that I wanted help with something or wanted to hear someone's experience, I would always Google it, and someone's blog would always come up. And I was like, you know, thank God for these people that are blogging, because what would I do? And so I was like, I need to pay it forward. And I think that when you feel that way, when you realize that there's people out there that just want to relate to somebody and know that what they're going through isn't, you know, them by themselves, it's more of a, you know, universal suffering, and you can kind of use that to help people lift out of it. It's like you don't really have a choice but to share it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why blogs are so cool, is because they're not perfect. They're people sharing real stuff about their life and going deep, and at least the good ones, you know, at least the ones that I want to read, and at least the ones that are successful. I think it's kind of a non-negotiable to be real and to be authentic if you want to have a good blog, or really, you know, anything that you do, honestly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are very reserved about things that they kind of feel are not the positive experiences, or, you know, like people talk about Facebook a lot and how people are only posting happy things on Facebook, and it becomes this whole, like, you feel bad about yourself if you're going through something that's not the ideal scenario or whatever. So I think it's important to get people, you know, realizing that we all go through stuff, and, you know, no matter how perfect someone's life might seem on Instagram or on Facebook, like, we're all going through emotions and we all have hard times. And if we can really kind of, you know, support each other through that instead of making it this thing that you're not supposed to talk about, that's where it's at.
So good. So good. Okay, so now I want to get personal with you and the girl behind your healthy crushes.
Oh boy.
So right now, what are your maybe like top 2 or 3 healthy crushes that you just can't get enough of right now?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Okay, so right now I'm super obsessed with Barry's Boot Camp. That's like my biggest healthy crush right now. I don't know if you've heard of Barry's Boot Camp, but it's this
only from your Instagram.
Yeah, literally, it's this insane workout. I know they have it in different cities, but I just started it within the last couple months. But it's so fun, and I usually don't like to go to like gym type experiences or like lifting weights or anything like that. And I've had personal trainers before, and nothing has ever stuck with me. But this is so awesome because it's like dark, and like the lights are like red lights, and there's club music. Like they'll play like awesome music, and the trainers are all like super sexy, and it's like the most fun thing I've ever done. So I'll go there, you know, for an hour, and you run on the treadmill, like you're sprinting up hills on the treadmill, and then you're like doing these weight things, and you're switching, and it's really fast, and they call it like, they're like, oh, this is the best workout in the world. Who knows if that's true, but it's really fun, and I like get really excited to go. So I'm really happy about Barry's Boot Camp right now.
Wow. So it's kind of like spinning with like treadmills, and like there's a teacher and a class. Oh, that's sweet. I want to, when I visit New York, I'm going to go with you.
Oh my God. Please come with me, because it is so fun. It is so fun.
It sounds super. I mean, I need to start like training. It's
it goes by quickly, and by the end you're like, whoa, I just worked out for an hour, and I just sprinted, you know, up this like 12% incline and did all these weight things, and you just feel so good afterwards. I never thought I would like that kind of workout, but they got a really good method going on over there.
It sounds fun. I want to do it, and then we'll go to Hugh Kitchen. It sounds like a blast.
Yes, Hugh Kitchen is definitely another healthy
Oh,
crush.
there we go. Perfect transition.
Hugh Kitchen is, I'm sure you know everything about it because I post about it so much. But the reason that I'm really into Hugh Kitchen is because they're super neurotic about all the ingredients that go into their food. So from the oils to, the type of salt to the type of water they use to like making sure that the meat is all, organic or grass fed, or they're very, very, very particular. And when I met the owner of Hugh Kitchen, I was like, you are speaking my language, because I'm so perfectionist about things. I will investigate down to the last ingredient. And I mean, not at every restaurant that I go to, of course, like you can't control everything. But if I have a say in what's going to go into my body, I will,
speak up.
Yes. So when I met him, I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" Like, there needs to be more places like this, because
yes,
they're very, very, very particular about what goes into the food. So I just respect that about them, and I think that more restaurants should get on board and be more careful with the things that they're bringing in, because it's when you're making food for people on such a mass scale like that, it's so easy to bring in crappy ingredients just because it's cheaper, but I think it's hurting people in the long run. So it makes me happy when restaurants care about that stuff.
Oh, for sure. And it's so nice it's also, making all your food for yourself is amazing and great. And, cooking is such a spiritual experience, and like that's all well and good, but there is something to be said for having food prepared for you and having that convenience factor. And it's so nice to walk into a place and know like there's no canola oil up in this joint, and like you can feel calm knowing that you're still being nourished in the way you would choose if you were cooking for yourself, but you're getting that convenience. And I hope that more places all across the country, I love that New York kind of takes the lead, but all across the country get to kind of follow in Hugh's footsteps. It's super cool. Maybe we'll get one here in Detroit someday.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's nice to see people kind of taking a forward-thinking approach when it comes to that, because honestly, I think cooking at home is obviously the best way to go, because you can, make sure you're getting the best ingredients and choosing everything that you're putting into your body. But it's nice to know that there's some places that you can go when you're out and still feel safe.
Exactly. So do you have a third thing that's like really on your mind right now, a healthy crush?
What is on my mind? A third thing that's been on my mind. You know what? This is so crazy sounding, but lately, just in the past couple of weeks, and maybe you've noticed this on my Instagram too, but I'm super obsessed with street art. Like,
oh yeah,
looking for, I don't even actually look for it. I just come across like inspirational graffiti all the time. And I was thinking about it. I was like, why am I, spending so much time like Instagramming all this inspirational graffiti? But it's just that when you're really present, when you're walking around and you're really present, you notice things that you wouldn't normally notice. And so whenever I'm like walking with people and I'm noticing all of these things and other people aren't noticing, I'm like, why is that? It's because I'm just paying attention. And I think that it's kind of like when you're paying attention to the love and positivity that's in the world, like it will present itself to you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm always like noticing when there's inspirational quotes or hearts or things all around the city, and there's so many of them around the city. And if you just take the chance to notice and like pick out the positive things, it's kind of like the same thing as having gratitude, is picking out the positive things in your life. One of my friends was just telling me the other day that he has been starting every single day with writing down 3 things that he's grateful for, and he's doing it for 30 days, and it has to be 3 different things every single day. So you can't pick the same things. And he's like, it's transforming my entire life. So it's kind of the same concept, I feel like, is noticing what's beautiful, noticing what's good, and then being able to, share that. It's just making me really happy.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And it's so true. It's like, it's all there. We just have to open our eyes to it, which is the same concept as gratitude. And I love what your friend's doing. I do that with 2 of my friends. You may know Addictive Daughter, Joey and Persia, and the people who are listening, I had them on the show. But the 3 of us are in a little like text chat, and every day we send each other 3 gratitudes, and they have to be different. And it's kind of nice to have that that friendship connection to not only hold yourself accountable for doing it, but then that they have to be different, because it's really easy to be like, I'm grateful for my dog, the sun, and my shoes, it could be the same every day. So so that's a tip, for people if they want to just get a little gratitude group going and their text messages, or I guess you could do it on email, but we all get so many emails. But yeah, I mean, whatever works for you, just do it.
Yeah, and I read this thing, I think it was on Danielle Laporte's Instagram the other day, and it was like, if you're obsessing over something, distract yourself with gratitude. And I was like, that is so good, because I so frequently get into these states of mind where I'm obsessing over a certain thing, and it's totally taking away from being grateful for the good things I do have in my life. And then when I start to think about all the good things that are going on and the good people that I know, and like just the beautiful friends, and it overwhelms me with gratitude, and it's kind of like whatever I was obsessing about seems so small.
Yeah, I totally agree. When I go to sleep at night, I instead of counting sheep, I count, kind of like gratitude, but I count 3 things that went well the day that just happened. And that has been really helpful for me, because what I used to do was count the things that went wrong. I didn't mean to, but I would be like, oh, that really sucked, or tomorrow I have to do that, or blah, blah, blah. And going to bed with that energy is very, very different than going to bed with the energy of focusing on the good, and, it creates more of the good. So that's another
totally agree. Yeah, and the going before you go to bed thing is really important, because I've noticed lately, within the past week or two, I've been like bringing my phone into bed with me and like texting people like until like the moment that I need to close my eyes and go to sleep, and it's really affecting the quality of my sleep and the quality of my energy and my thoughts. And so I decided to start turning my phone off, or like putting it somewhere else, for an hour before I go to sleep. And that makes such a big difference to just either read, or like you said, like focus on gratitude, or just do something calming. I really think people underestimate how much being on our phones so much affects everything, including our health,
Yes, so much. And I don't know if you know Sean Stevenson, Jenny, but he was when he was on the podcast, he talked a lot about sleep, and kind of really shifted my paradigm with sleep. And since then, I got the Philips wake up light, and I took my phone out of the bedroom, and it was super trippy. Like, I was used to it being my alarm, I was used to it being my like music before bed, but I like keep it outside of my room, and I don't have that blue light before bed. And it's like, there's some nights where all I want to do is like be like, oh, but I just want to go and like scroll through Instagram a little more. Check Jenny's Instagram, Yeah.
And it's super addicting.
Yeah, it is. And then I realized like really forcing myself to keep it outside of the room like was really, really great. And then this might sound silly, or might just show how addicted I am to my phone, but whatever. In the morning, I'm really excited to go check it, and it's like this new exciting thing in the morning. So I don't know, it like kind of helps me get out of bed to go and like get my phone. So I know.
I mean, yeah, enough, and if you keep your phone by your bed and are constantly checking it, like I was, I'll get to the point sometimes where I'll wake up and, in the middle of the night and you can't fall back asleep, and I'll just like look at my phone, and that is not it's not conducive to having good energy the next day. That's for sure. Yes, but one of my biggest things that's happened is my roommate bought us both clocks, like actual clocks that sit on our bedside tables, so we don't have to like look at our phone to know what time it is. And it seems like such a simple thing, but it's changed so much for me. Just not opening my phone to check what time it is, because then you see like all the notifications and all the texts, and it totally can derail your sleep.
Yeah, and they say that blue light is like really bad for us before bed anyway, so I totally agree.
In general, I think just looking at phones too much, my eyes will hurt if I'm looking at my phone for too long, and I'm like, this is not natural.
Yeah, or the computer, or all of it. Yeah,
totally,
for sure.
So,
well, good. Kind of going off of that same thing. So, this is my favorite question to ask people, and those people listening know I ask everyone who comes on the show, and I'm so excited to ask you, Jenny. So can you walk us through your morning routine and the specifics of how you get started in the morning, and maybe like the first 3 things you do and how that affects how the rest of your day goes?
Yes, I can absolutely walk you through that. And it does make a big difference. If I do my morning routine or not, it really changes everything. So the first thing I do when I wake up on an ideal day is I make a pot of yerba mate. It is, I mean, I'm still a total caffeine addict, but having the yerba mate, for some reason, it doesn't affect me in like really the same way as coffee. It gives me this really uplifting energy. It's my favorite thing. So I do that. And I'll bring my little cup of yerba mate into my bedroom, and I have a pillow on the floor, and it's right under my window, and it's my little, morning routine meditation pillow. And so I will get out my journal, and I do morning pages. And so I'm sure you're familiar with morning pages.
Yes, amazing.
From The Artist's Way, which is like the most life-changing book in the world. So I'll just write, and I have to give myself a limit, because I can get, if I don't have anything that I need to do or be at in the morning, I'll sometimes just keep on writing, and then I'm like, whoa, how is it like 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
But so I'll write, and usually I'll try to write like 3 to 4 pages and just get everything out that is bothering me. And sometimes it's simply a to-do list. Sometimes it's, me like really working through an emotion, or writing down a dream that I had, or just like what is stressing me out. It's like a brain drain. You can just get out everything. And so that always really helps me, because one of the things I notice is that my morning pages usually start out like kind of negative, just like I'm tired, I'm feeling anxious, blah blah blah, this is what's going on, here's all the things that I have to focus on in my life. But then by the end, I get to this place of positivity for some reason, where I just start asking for help, and I'm like, you know what, actually, like, I can figure this out, and, I want to have a miraculous day, and here's what I need to do that, and let's get started. And I transform my thoughts, yes. And that's really, really, really important. And I'm always, saying thank you at the end, like, thank you for guiding me through this day. Thank you for, whoever I'm talking to, I don't even know. But I'm like, just thank you, whoever's out there listening right now, whoever's guiding me through the day. Let's like do this together, and let's make it good. And so the morning pages is really, really important to me. So ideally also exercise in the morning is really, really important. My whole day is transformed if I go for a run in the morning. So like doing the yerba mate and then writing my morning pages and then going for a run. I mean, that's like setting me up for ecstasy for sure.
High vibe day.
Yeah, high vibe day. And then, I mean, now I'll do Barry's boot camp, which is a little different, but, running with my music in the morning or walking, whatever. Moving in the morning at some point is really, really important. Yeah. And other things that are really good in the morning for me is sometimes to do just some creative writing, like if you have time. And because that's when I feel like my mind is most open in the morning and most
I was just
available.
That. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll get like better downloads at that point. And if I can do all of those things in the morning, it's kind of like whatever happens the rest of the day is fine.
Yeah. I completely agree that the morning pages, like I call it my morning dump. Like if I don't get that out, I can't. I don't know what I'm thinking unless I'm writing. Mm-hmm. So it's really helpful, and I loved it. It's so true. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it always starts negative and then shifts to the positive. And I notice for me that sometimes it can be like something I never want anyone to see. Sometimes it can be something that I turn into a blog post. It just kind of depends on the day and what's coming up. But I think it's such a crucial practice for people to get into, and just so transformational. And I know for me too, if I do in the morning I definitely feel most creative, most intuitive in the morning. And if I do just one thing that moves me in the direction of my dreams before, for me, in my case, before I go to work or before I, start my day with whatever I'm doing, just one thing, to build my business or to whatever it is, at least I'll have done that, and so if I don't get to anything else in the day, I'll still feel accomplished in some way. And I recently heard this TED Talk. I have no idea who it was. I listened to so many, but it was about the fact that willpower is actually a limited resource, and that through your day, if you spend your willpower on, getting done Excel spreadsheets or cleaning the bathroom, or, they may be really important things you actually need to do, but if you expend your willpower on those things, and some days you have to, you're going to have less willpower for the creative things that you really want to do but still require willpower later in the day. So if you can use your willpower wisely throughout the day, I think that that was just really, really a big, that just affected me when I heard that. So I just wanted to share that.
No, that's really interesting, and that's something that I think a lot of creative people and entrepreneurs and everyone struggles with, is thinking we can do everything in one day and thinking that we can be superhuman and accomplish all the things we want to accomplish and write that blog and clean the whole apartment and figure out these things for your friend's party or whatever you need to do, like all these things that you can. But you're right, like we can't always have the energy to do all of those things at once. And sometimes I know myself, I get down on myself if I have this like superhuman to-do list and then I can't do all of it because I just get tired or I just don't have the energy for it. But you're right, like just picking the most important things and getting them done early, I think is the key.
Yeah, and they say like with entrepreneurs to do things in the morning, and maybe that's not, that can't be, it depends on where you are in your life, if you have a bridge job or whatever. But I think, for me, like I said, I just feel better if I try and just know yourself. It's like some people might not be like Jenny and I, and they may be more creative in the evening, and and that's cool too. But just know yourself. I think that's important.
Totally. And like when those creative, in my experience, the creative bursts come at unexpected points sometimes. So I always just trust, even if it's been 2 weeks since I've written a blog, like I trust that the creative energy will flow through me when it needs to. And everything gets written that needs to be written. And just kind of like trusting that even if, you can't get the creative work out in the day that you plan to get it out, that it will come through you. And I think a lot of it is setting yourself up for it to come through you, like eating the right foods and moving your body and getting in the right mindset and surrounding yourself with things that inspire you. And someone said to me the other day, I was in Portland for this entrepreneurial conference a couple of weeks ago, and someone said to me, what I've learned is that you can create inspiration. Like you can make your inspiration come. Like if you're not feeling, I know. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, well, there's days when I really want to feel inspired, but I'm not. And I used to just be like, okay, I'm just not going to work today. But now she's like, I can set myself up. Like I know that if I, go for a walk, I'll be inspired. Or I know if I watch a certain YouTube video, it really inspires me. Or I know if I,
That's so true.
Talk to a certain person. So you can kind of craft or like eat a certain way in the morning to craft like the energy that you're going to feel later that day, and know that you can kind of, like lure the inspiration towards you.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and just I haven't thought of it that way, but I can definitely relate. And I think,
and that's like one of Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way. She talks about going on artist dates. So, taking yourself out somewhere alone to a place that inspires you, whether it's like to go look for graffiti or, my roommate went ice skating on a Wednesday at 3:00 when she really had all this other work to do. But she was like, you know what? I need to get some inspiration right now, so I'm going to go ice skating. And, she did it, and she came back and busted out some great work. So, it's like whatever you need to do.
Yeah, some people go to movies, like Don Draper. Yeah, for sure. I heard, I think it was Elizabeth Gilbert's TED Talk where she talks about some important poet that I don't remember, but she says that she would go out, it was like this beautiful quote that I'm going to butcher, but essentially she would be like, sometimes the poem comes and it comes into my mind and I'm like out in the field and I don't have time to catch it and it's gone, but I know it's okay because another one will come or something like that. And I think that kind of speaks to that point as well.
Yes. Is that the video that it's like something about genius? Like, it's
yes.
Yes, that video is amazing.
I know.
Need to go
Isn't it
rewatch
so good?
that.
Yeah, we should watch it after this.
It's
I'll put it in the show notes.
Good. But no, I believe that certain minds are just ripe for the creative ideas. And I mean, the way that I look at it is that these creative ideas aren't just owned by us. Like, they're in the, I mean, for lack of better terms, like collective consciousness. And if you set yourself up to be the receiver of these ideas, you'll get them. And you know, in my opinion, it's like kind of your obligation to put them out into the world, or else like someone else will or whatever. But, yeah, that's why I feel like my writing is not me. You know, it's a download that I'm getting, and it's like, all right, let's put this out. You know, because I've been like chosen, I guess, to say this.
No, it's
whatever.
so true. And I think it's Marie Forleo who says, you know, by you not sharing or you not doing your business, you're robbing the world from your gifts, and you know, that's powerful. Yes,
and the thing is that we all have these gifts and these teachings, and I heard something the other day from a guy at this conference that I went to, and he said, you know, me and one of my friends, we had the exact same skill set and we had the exact same level of knowledge, but the only difference was that he was sharing it and I wasn't. So he, you know, garnered this whole audience of people that was being really helped by the work, and this other guy was, you know, not sharing it. And he's like, the only difference between someone who is, you know, successful in their creative career versus someone who isn't is they're just sharing, and we all have it. You know, we all have something to share. So it's just about expressing, you know?
Yeah. Oh, so good. So the other end of my morning routine question is your evening routines. Can you walk us through what you do in the evening and maybe like the last few things you do before bed and things you do to relax?
Yes. Well, you know, I've been very, very blessed over the past year to, I know I keep mentioning my roommate, but I've been very blessed to live with a person who she and I are totally kind of on this journey together, and literally almost every night, unless one of us is out doing something else, we have what we call our couch chats. And so we will bring kind of whatever has happened to us during the day, and each of us will kind of tell each other what happened, and then we'll get like a learning out of it. So we'll work through everything and figure out, you know, what's the lesson in this, like what we're
coaching
super
each other.
It's totally coachy and it's totally like self-helpy, but we will work through it all and kind of get to a place where we realize like why these things happened or what we need to do next. And it has been the most incredible experience just having this person in my life to kind of give my daily download to. So it's our couch chats, and we're constantly having epiphanies like every night. And so we'll go to bed being like, thank you so much, you know, thank you so much for listening. And I think so whether or not you have a roommate or, you know, a partner or someone to kind of go over things with, I feel like communicating and sharing your experience with someone, or, you know, listening to someone is one of the most therapeutic things that can happen. And just getting all of that stuff out, especially before bed, I think is really helpful because you're not taking all of it with you. Yeah. So I think whether it's like writing it down or speaking with someone about it, it's really, you know, it's my saving grace. And when my roommate and I are traveling or we're, you know, home for the holiday or something, we're like, oh my gosh, we need epic couch chats after this because there's so much going on. So that's a big part of my life right now.
I love that. Do you need a third roommate?
I know, seriously, it's really fun. It's like sleepover party over here. But yeah, she's fantastic. And then besides that, I mean, things that really help me to wind down is I never am like watching TV or anything. I try not to go on my computer at night either. I mean, my phone is another thing because it's like if people are texting me, I'll get involved in that. But drinking tea at night is a big one that can calm me down. So I really like ginger tea or peppermint tea. Those are or detox tea. Those are really nice ones to just sit with. And so the couch chats, drinking tea. Sometimes I'll read before bed, and I try not to read something that's too involved. Like I won't read a business book or something before bed, but I read Oriah a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with the author Oriah, but her stuff is the most amazing. I mean, she is like, we call her our den mother over here because we're like, what would Oriah tell us to do right now?
I'm gonna have to check her out.
Yeah, she wrote this book called The Invitation, based on this famous poem, The Invitation. And then she also has 2 other books called The Dance and The Call. And they're very soothing, and she's just brilliant. And so I'll read Oriah before bed to get me in a calm state before going to sleep.
Cool. I'm so excited to check her out.
Yes, you're going to love her. She's just incredible. She's absolutely incredible. Oh, her and Brené Brown to me are these women that are just like, they're just getting there. They're just going there. Yes. They're cutting deep, and they're vulnerable. Authentic and vulnerable. And yeah, it's amazing. So yeah. Cool.
Super cool. So, okay, I have a couple food questions for you.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Can you talk a bit about your personal diet and kind of how it's changed since you've been on this path, and how it's important not to get stuck in one way of eating or way of living, and how it's all constantly pretty fluid?
Yes, absolutely. So when I know the first book that got me interested in nutrition was Skinny Bitch.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Me too. I listened to it in college on audiobook.
Yes.
And then that part on the chickens, and you're like,
I know.
In tears, and like, yes.
Exactly. So New Year's Day 2008. My friend that lived down the street from me, she was like, do you want to go vegan with me for 30 days? And I was like, absolutely not. As I was eating this like ham and cheese omelet at a diner. I was like, no way. And she was like, how about this? Read this book, Skinny Bitch, and then tell me if you'll do like a 30-day vegan experiment with me. And I was like, fine, just because it's called Skinny Bitch. And I thought that was like edgy and cool. I'll read it. So I read it, and I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm a vegan now. It was like life-changing.
That'll do it.
So I became a vegan, and that went on for a really long time. And I started eating everything vegan, and I was eating, tofu every day, and soy meat and soy cheese. And I was like, it's healthy. Soy lattes, so much soy. And anything that was vegan, like, I was fine with. And I thought it was, like, super healthy. So that was, like, my meals would be basically, like, tofu and brown rice with, vegetables and soy sauce. And that was, I thought I was, like, the healthiest person alive.
Soy with a side of soy.
Exactly. And, I didn't even think about anything except for whether or not it was vegan. And so at that time, I just was obsessed with like not touching meat or dairy ever. And that was how I got interested in health, which was actually a good thing because I started researching more and more, and then I found the raw food, like the raw vegan diet, and I found David Wolfe and started getting into his stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I need to be a raw vegan. Yeah. I need to be raw. And that's actually how I got started blogging too, because I was researching all this stuff online about how to do a 30-day raw vegan experiment. And I found this guy's blog, Steve Pavlina, and he had done a 30-day raw experiment and documented all of it. So I, followed his every move on that blog, and he's the one that really inspired me to get started blogging. Because I was like, this is so cool. This is the kind of stuff I want to be doing. I want to be able to experiment and show people like what the deal is, because his stuff was so helpful. Anyway, so I did raw vegan for a while, and my boyfriend at the time had done like a raw vegan diet for like 8 months, and so he helped me a lot with figuring out what I could eat, and so that was fun. And it was about the time where I was kind of like raw vegan that I applied, or that I enrolled at IIN, Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And I was just like obsessed with, being vegan and all this stuff. And David Wolf, I was just like his biggest fan, and which is fun because now we're friends. But so I went to IIN, and through the IIN program, I learned that there's not just one diet that's right. And before I went into that program, like I could just argue you down a rabbit hole about why you should be vegan and why a raw vegan diet is absolutely the most healthy thing for everybody. That's what I thought. So going through IIN, I realized the concept of bio-individuality, which is, everybody is different, and, what works for one person might not work for the other person. And, if you're going to do this specific type of diet, you really have to listen to your body. And that was something that I never even considered, which is so crazy, but listening to my own body and how it felt, and maybe raw vegan diet isn't the best, I don't know. So the concept of really paying attention to your body versus paying attention to some type of dogma, was really life-changing for me. And I think, especially when I started health coaching, I realized that most people don't know how they feel when they eat certain things. Like I would say, oh, well, how do you feel when you have oatmeal for breakfast versus when you have eggs? And they'd be like, I don't know. Like, I just thought that I was supposed to have oatmeal, or that people get these ideas in their head, and people really want to be told what to do. And they're much more likely to follow, myself included, to follow some type of plan rather than intuitively listening to what's going on. So through IIN, I started just experimenting with different ways of eating, and I started adding a little bit more eggs and fish back into my diet. So I guess I was vegan except for eggs and fish for a while, and so that was interesting. And then I did my blood type, and I figured out I was type O, so I was like, oh, I'm supposed to have meat, and so I've gone through all these different experiments. And then working for Dr. Lippman, when I started working for him, I think I had been vegetarian for years, aside from having some fish once in a while. But then I started learning a lot from him about the ways that are, to eat healthy. And he would order Hugh Kitchen food, and there would be this organic chicken sitting in the kitchen at the office, and I would just look at it and be like, I kind of wanted it. And I was just listening to Frank talk about the healthy ways to eat meat, and knowing where it came from and all of that. So I was like, all right. So one day I just kind of snuck into the kitchen and got a little bit of chicken and brought it to my desk, and I ate it, and I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
So now the way that I eat is, Frank, Dr. Lippman at his office, we're big fans of a paleo way of eating. And it's not to say to bring meat back into the diet, but more because in the paleo way of eating, they're really big on cutting out sugar and gluten. And, paleo cuts out all grains, but really what we focus on at Dr. Lippman's office is cutting out sugar, gluten, and dairy. But I would say sugar and gluten are, the biggest things that we see make such a big difference for people. So right now, I'm not saying I follow a super specific plan all the time, but I've leaned towards more of the paleo way of thinking, which is just very minimal grains, staying away from sugar as much as possible. Dairy is very rare part of my life. But a lot of the times I could be vegan for a few days and not notice, and then have fish one day or have eggs. But I think for me the biggest impact is the sugar. And I think regardless of whether you're a plant eater or a meat eater or whatever, lowering the amount of sugar that you have in your diet is going to make a lot of big changes health-wise. And so, digestive things and skin things and autoimmune disease, and there's just so many things that are affected by having too much sugar. So I don't know. I hope that answers your question.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. And just a couple of things I want to highlight from it are just bio-individuality exists, and it's such a perfect story depicting that. And I think, it's so funny, Jenny, that literally mirrors my story completely. Just so funny, it was skinny bitch and then raw vegan and then Kimberly Snyder's book, you know what I mean? And it's whatever it is, it's everybody kind of needs to just we tend, and I know for myself, I looked at someone who seemed to be thriving, and I was just like, tell me what you do, and I'm going to do that. But that's not the way to do it, and that's not healthy. And I think that's the danger in books and blogs, and these people, they're all writing from their experience, and I think it's really important for us to realize that. And I looked now at, like, I think vegan's a stepping stone. Like, when people tell me they're vegan, I'm like, oh, that's so cute, like, you'll see, like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta just wait, like, maybe that is great for them, but like maybe not too. And just being so stuck in any particular way of eating or living is just, that's what's unhealthy. And I think the sugar piece is also really huge. And Sarah Wilson talks about, even fruit it used to be used as a treat, and now we kind of looked at fruit as like, oh, it's healthy, I'll have it 20 times a day. But I think looking at even the fruit, and again, that's a stepping stone. Like, fruit is great compared to, like, cookies all day, so it's like, just figure out where you're at, and like, that's totally cool. But just keep in mind that these things are treats, and just to just focus on what makes you feel good, and focus on what your body likes. I think that's really huge.
Yeah, and I think, for most people, especially in America, if they just cut out processed packaged foods, that's going to be the biggest thing you could do, So whether or not it's like vegan, paleo, la la la, it's like, just doesn't matter. Eat food that's food, Like, that's what bothers me the most. I mean, I can get super fired up, but what bothers me the most is when people are eating like processed crap because they think it's healthy. Like, I don't care if you want to eat that processed food and you really like it or something, but don't eat it because that's what you think is the healthiest thing, like Weight Watchers ice cream bars or something, like those kind of things. It's like, come on, like, don't eat it for health reasons, Yes. So that's what if I could, spread the gospel of one thing, it would be to just eat things that are actual foods, and that's going to be the healthiest thing that you can do.
Yes, eat real food, mostly plants, not too much, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so real quick, I want to talk about breakfast, and that is because one of my favorite posts you ever wrote really kind of shifted things for me, is a technique that you use for digestion and giving your body a break a little bit. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yes. So I wrote a blog, maybe it was last summer or something, about intermittent fasting, and it got a lot of feedback both ways. And at the time, I was getting super into the concept of intermittent fasting, which there's different ways that you can do it, but the way that I was doing it then was the 16-8 method, which is, there's an 8-hour period of time where you can eat, and then you take 16 hours without eating. I think that's how it works. Meaning, like, if you stop eating at 9:00 p.m., you wait 16 hours before you have like your first meal of the next day. And that can actually be pretty extreme for a lot of people, because it basically means skipping breakfast altogether and waiting till lunch. Like, most of the time, that's what it means. So for a while, I was doing that, and it really was helping me, because before that, I would always be eating breakfast, and sometimes, like, I would get, sluggish after eating breakfast, or it just like didn't feel good, or I felt like my food from the night before was like not fully digested, and I was like eating breakfast on top of that, and it just didn't feel good. So doing the intermittent fasting really gave me like hunger cues. Like, it made me realize when my body was actually asking for food and when I was just eating because it was like time to eat. And so now what it's taught me is, I don't still do, like, for a while I was like super religious, the 16 hours and da da da. But now what I'll really do, and everyone's different, but what I usually do is just wait until I feel like my body is kind of clear and ready for the next meal. And I think it's a good tactic to do at every meal of the day, is to not just eat because it's time to eat, but to eat because you can feel that your body is asking for nourishment, and that it feels energizing and good to be eating, rather than just eating and causing digestive problems because you're eating too much or just too frequently. So the way I do it now, lately I've been doing bulletproof coffee in the morning, and that's kind of a whole nother story, because coffee is like this crazy, I have a crazy relationship with coffee, but having coffee with MCT oil in it, and MCT oil is basically the medium chain triglycerides that are in coconut oil, which are like the most beneficial part of the coconut oil, is extracted and put into this super concentrated oil. So it gives you a lot of energy, but it also is burned really quickly for like not stored as fat in your body. So people are blending this MCT oil into their coffee as kind of like something to give your body some fats in the morning to start burning as energy, but not, overburdening your digestive system with a huge meal. So that was kind of a lot.
No, I really love the way that you spoke about that, and that it can, again, just be really chill, and the coffee sounds super high vibe.
Yeah. I mean, coffee is an insane thing that some people can have an abusive relationship with, including myself. So I have to check myself at the door with coffee once in a while. But yeah, so I think with the breakfast thing, like if I'm hungry in the morning, I'll make a smoothie or I'll have some eggs or something. If I'm not hungry, I'll just kind of wait until I feel hungry. And I think that's kind of reasonable.
Yeah, that's how I do it too. And I think, it's just not being dogmatic with any one thing, just in general, regardless of what it is.
Yeah, totally. Yes, because I love experimenting. I love going through phases and sharing that and saying, like, I don't know if this is going to be my whole life. I don't know. But it's kind of cool to just try something, especially when it's something that you feel very connected to, or that like you have to do something a certain way. If someone's like, well, you have to eat breakfast because you just have to, that's what they said on the Today Show, that you have to eat breakfast. And it's like, okay, but have you ever even considered trying not to and seeing how you feel? Maybe you feel awful and then but people, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times people don't know how they actually feel. And I think it's important to find out.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'll move on from this breakfast conversation, but I know for me, I was kind of doing that anyways. Like I just wasn't really hungry in the morning, and I noticed that like before I ate in the morning, I felt this maybe heady for people, but like I felt clearer and I felt more creative, and I didn't feel weighed down, and I could get more done. And then I would eat and go throughout my day. And you just kind of, by learning from your post, it kind of put a name onto what I was doing already. But again, not being dogmatic about it, like not setting alarms and not whatever, just something to consider, and might be new for people. So I'm glad we talked about it. So, okay, cool. So ready for some quick fire questions?
I guess so.
All right, let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, favorite color?
Green.
Favorite yoga pose?
Oh, Trikonasana.
Favorite day of the week?
Favorite day of the week? Oh, boy. I know this isn't really quick fire.
That's okay. Take your time.
I like Fridays.
Favorite vegetable?
Oh, favorite vegetable.
It's choosing your children.
Oh my god, favorite vegetable. I like cucumber.
Favorite.
I feel bad saying that because I love so many vegetables, but cucumbers are very special, I think.
They have a special place in your heart. Favorite fruit?
Avocado.
Okay, this one's a little scenario. So it's 8 p.m. or something, and you've had a long day, and you're starving, and so what do you make /do/eat?
I have a long day, and I'm starving?
Yeah.
I make soup a lot, and now that it's getting warmer outside, I'm not making as much soup, but kabocha squash soup is like one of the most nourishing, amazing, and quick things for me to make.
Yeah, you have a recipe for that on your blog, don't you?
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah,
so good.
We'll put that in the show notes for sure. So you do so much cool stuff, right? What is your number one tip for staying organized to show up fully present for all of the things you do?
Ooh, I wouldn't call myself organized at all. I'm very haphazard, but I think that the most important thing I can say to have energy and clarity for doing these kind of things is to say no a lot. I say no to anything that doesn't feel like a definite yes for me. And that gives me a lot of energy to do the things that are a definite yes. And if I say yes to something and it wasn't a definite yes, my energy plummets. So kind of clearing all the clutter of things that are just like, seems like it could be a good opportunity, but doesn't feel like that aligned. Like, I get super, super clear with my intuition on what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. And I say no to almost everything that's presented to me.
Yeah, so good. One of the tools from Gabby's new book is no is a complete sentence, right?
Yes. And I love saying no to stuff because it just gets you closer and closer to things you really want to be doing. So if there's an event or a conference or a whatever, and it's like, okay, maybe everyone I know is going to it and maybe it seems cool, but I don't really have the feeling that I should be there, I say no. I don't know why. I'm just like, I don't really feel like that's what I need to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely the most important thing. Because I'm like, yo, you can. I mean, I read this actually in Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek like years ago, and he said, like, I only do things that I'm excited to do. Yeah. I mean, it was something along those lines. Yeah. Whatever it was, that's what I got from it. Whatever he exactly said. But it was like, I only want to do things that I'm excited to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to live my life like that. And only do things that I'm genuinely excited to do and just say no to everything else. And that's what I do.
Yeah, and a really great way to tune into that, I think, is just be like, yo, is this going to be fun? And if it's not, like, just then you've got your answer.
Yeah, I mean, if I hear about something and it like lights me up on the inside, it's a yes. If I'm like, like it's just not worth it.
Yeah, maybes are no's, I think.
No, I agree. That's what everything, relationships, business projects, parties, everything.
Yes. Okay, so you probably have to do this a lot in your work. So what is the number one biggest nutrition misconception you feel like you're constantly having to clear up for people?
Oh, that's really good. I think the biggest thing, and I mean, people say this all the time, but is being afraid of fat.
Yeah.
People
I knew you were going to say that.
You did?
Intuition. I don't know why. Yeah, I knew it.
Well, it's always like, it drives me so nuts when people are just like going bonkers with low-fat products and, you know, well, it's skim milk and low-fat mozzarella and like low-fat skinny cow sandwiches, whatever, like all these things. I'm like, because most of the time when you're taking the fat out of something, you're either adding sugar into it or some type of chemicals to make it taste better, because fat is like what makes things taste good. So, I mean, I don't know, not being afraid of like avocado, coconut, like olive oil, you know, like small amounts of nuts, like things that are fats that come from nature. It's like, yo, those were created for a reason. You know, we're supposed to eat them. Exactly. So I don't know, things like fat-free, whatever.
So 1980s.
Yes, totally. So that would probably be the biggest one. Yeah,
for sure. So going off that, where would you like to see holistic health and nutrition in, say, 10 years?
I would love to
kitchen on every corner.
Yeah, no, I think just to kind of like change people's mindsets from eating things that are chemicalized, processed foods, but are like supposed to make you lose weight or healthier, and having people really understand the concept of eating food that's food. I think that it's emerging more, but I think that, yeah, I mean, just transferring things from the idea that weight loss equals health. I mean, I think that's a big problem. I think there's a big difference between being healthy and losing weight, and people have this conception that something that makes you lose weight is what's healthy for your body. And, you know, you can lose weight like eating skinny cow sandwiches all day, probably, you know, if you're doing it in a certain way, but that's not feeding your body the information that's going to help your genetics and your, you know, being disease prone and all of that. If I'm making sense by saying that.
No, that totally makes sense. And I think shifting that paradigm will be really important. And it just reminds me, I don't know, do you watch Girls, Jenny?
I've only watched a couple of times, so I can't say that I'm super familiar.
Okay. Well, I'm not even like caught up or anything, but there's this one episode and it really spoke to this in the mainstream, and one of the characters was, getting her coffee or whatever, and her boyfriend, she was putting the sweet and low in her coffee, and her boyfriend was like, oh, that stuff's going to give you cancer. And she was like, oh, I know, but the other stuff's going to make me fat. And I thought that like, it really like hit me like, oh my God, maybe this because it's clearly a satire, it's like clearly making fun of the fact that that's what so many women do and or think. And I think it was really cool to me that this conversation is going mainstream and just kind of gives the fact that this is kind of where we're headed, which is really cool, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so favorite meal you've eaten in like the last week?
Oh, I'm like looking at my own Instagram right now just to remember what have I eaten in the last week. Oh,
I could probably tell you. I'm a little stalker.
On Easter, I made these little egg muffins, paleo egg muffins, and the recipe is on my blog, and they're literally my favorite thing ever because you can totally customize them. And so it's literally just eggs and vegetables, nothing else at all. Like you can line the muffin tins with coconut oil or whatever. But I made a bunch of different kinds, and I just keep them in the fridge, and they're like these cute little like portable vegetable egg things, and they're perfect. I love them. That's my favorite thing I've made in the last week. And I've also been making this like awesome smoothie where I put in greens, like usually spinach or something, and then coconut water, and then I put probiotic powder in it, and then drops of liquid vitamin D, and what else am I putting in it? That's kind of like, I'll put some MCT oil in it too. And those, or you can use coconut oil, but I'm getting into like kind of supercharging my smoothies with probiotic powder. That's something I learned from Dr. Littman.
That sounds super cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
If you could have one superhero power for a day, what would it be?
Oh my gosh. Not getting tired.
No, that would be super cool.
Just having endless energy, that would be amazing.
That would be super cool.
Yeah, like not needing to sleep. I mean, I love sleeping, but how cool would that be if you could just keep on going?
Yeah, that'd be Energizer Bunny. Energizer Jenny.
Exactly.
What does your ideal day look like?
Ideal day. Oh, it's so different every day, but I think ideally, if I can exercise and create something, that's my ideal day. Like, I don't care what else happens, but if I can write a blog and publish a blog and also exercise, like, that's my ideal day.
Done. I love that. Favorite movie?
Oh, I like kind of like sci-fi, like alternate reality type of movies. So I really love movies like Vanilla Sky and like Fight Club, like movies where whatever is happening is not like really what's happening, or there's like a question as to like, is this a dream or is this real?
I'm into that too.
Those are my favorite movies.
Yeah. Favorite book?
Well, God, I'm looking at a stack of like 300 books. My two favorite books, I will say too, is Journey to the Heart by Melody Beattie, because it's like a daily meditation. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but it is the book that I've had for years that I keep going back to, and it's been like such a help for me. And then The Life You Were Born to Live by Dan Millman is another one of my favorite books. It's numerology and it's super trippy and weird, but it's really one of those books that you can go back to no matter how many times you've looked at it, and you can find something new to help you with your life. So it's very powerful.
Ooh, that sounds super cool. Wrote that one down too. Favorite song?
Favorite song? These questions are making me dig deep.
We go deep here in Wonderland.
I don't know that I have like a one favorite song.
We'll post the link to your Spotify.
Oh yeah, my Spotify. I have so many songs that I'm obsessed with. So I can't give the the award.
It's okay. If you think of it after this, we'll reassess.
Okay.
All right.
But I mean, my favorite band is Fall Out Boy. If people weren't aware of that.
That's so funny.
Anything by Fall Out Boy or Trevor Hall. Fall Out Boy and Trevor Hall.
Eclectic music taste.
Oh my God. And Taylor Swift.
Oh my gosh, you're killing me. You're so funny.
Totally.
Okay, cool. So last question that I ask everyone. So as you know, the name of my blog and the name of this podcast is The Wellness Wonderland. Mm-hmm. So when I offer that term to you, Jenny, to live in a wellness wonderland, what comes up? What does that mean to you?
Well, I'm picturing like Candyland, but like instead of candy, like green smoothies.
A green smoothie river instead of the chocolate one.
That's what comes to mind for me. But I think that a wellness wonderland is really something that's about you as an individual. And I think, like we've been talking about on this entire call, to be pulling things from places that inspire you and all the people that inspire you and all the experiences that inspire you, but ultimately kind of alchemizing that into your own personal wonderland that has your own experiences mixed in with all the inspiration that you have, and really following that path, like following the path of your own heart, following the path of your own health, following the path of your own intuition. That's like the true wellness wonderland for each person.
I love that. Honestly, I really think of it as just a place where you can be authentic, and if there's a green smoothie river, I mean, that would be super cool, right?
Dive in.
Oh my God, okay, I can't stop laughing. That was super fun. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and I will see you next week.
Oh, thanks, Katie.
Jenny! Thanks for listening. You made it all the way to the end. I'll be back next week, but until then, let's stay inspired and keep this conversation going. So tweet at me at Katie Dalebout and our guest with your aha moments from this conversation. And like the Wellness Wonderland on Facebook, so we can all hang out there and discuss how inspired we are and how we'll apply it in our daily lives. And never miss another episode or post from me by signing up for email updates on thewellnesswonderland.com. See you back in Wonderland.